Please, please, I'm begging you, sir. I'll do anything. Just please give me one more month to find the money.
I laughed. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 1 month? What am I? A charity? You failed to pay me for the past 3 months, Mr. Wilson. I believe the deal we had was that you'd send payments every week.
Please, sir, I'm begging you. It's not my fault.
Whose fault is it then? The lame horse you bet on which made you lose all your money? I didn't really need the guy's money, but I admit it felt good to have so much power. So much money that people are willing to kneel before me. I'd be lying if I didn't say that squeezing every bit of money from Riley's father didn't give me a whole lot of satisfaction. After all, he was one of the reasons I got rejected by her only a year ago. I heard you told your daughter I wasn't worthy of her. If I remember right, you were the one who told her that my family was poor, and that my dad was just a window cleaner, and that I'd no doubt follow in his footsteps. Didn't you tell her I was too poor to be her girlfriend? Finally, the man's eyes began to widen with sudden realization. After months of borrowing money from me, he finally recognized who I was.
I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't. I'm sorry. Trace, is that really you? Trace, forgive me. If you want my daughter, you can have her. Take my daughter. She's yours. Just please, take her and we're even.
I laughed again. A long, satisfying, vengeful laugh. I called 2 of the models who were lounging on the couch in the corner. They sat beside me and began to give me a massage on my shoulders. I smiled at the man who once called me worthless. Are you kidding? Why would I want your daughter when I can have any beautiful woman I want? Hank, take him away. Put him to work in the mines until he pays off his debt. Riley's dad tried to run, but before he could even stand, Hank lifted him up with one hand and slung him onto his shoulders as if he weighed nothing. The guy screamed and begged for me to spare his family. But why would I? They owed me. I simply came to collect. Hi there, I'm Trace. And when my crush rejected me, I turned myself into the city's alpha. Do you have a unique title idea? Comment it down below and like the ones you think are interesting. You never know. Your story may be the next one we post. Alright, now back to the story. I met Riley years ago. We were childhood friends. I've lived on the same street as her family ever since my mom left Dad and we had to move to a smaller place. Riley was my first ever friend at the new school. She introduced me to a lot of cool people. And even though I was a quiet, geeky kid, thanks to her, I had cool friends. The problem was that those friends were only my friends as long as Riley was there. As soon as she turned her back, those same friends would make fun of me, call me names, mock me for my acne and how I had fat cheeks. They called me babyface, and they didn't mean it in a nice way. But, you know what? I didn't mind it in the slightest. If it meant I got to hang out with Riley, I was happy. The guys she hung out with were rough. They ridiculed me every chance they got. They would steal my stuff and pick on me during gym class. I ran out of excuses to my dad for how I kept losing my shoes. But I endured all of that because I thought Riley wasn't like them. That was until I plucked up the courage to finally tell her what I'd been meaning to say all those years. One afternoon, on the very first Valentine's Day that I managed to scrounge up some money, I bought a huge bouquet of flowers, wore my dad's suit, and fixed up my hair. I went into school fully intending to go home as Riley's boyfriend. I should have taken the stares and the pointing as a clue. Everyone was laughing at me, and I didn't know why. I texted Riley to meet me behind the gym after class. I fully expected us to be alone there, but the moment I got there, there was already a bunch of people waiting. Somehow, the news of my invitation got shared, and the whole class was there. I was so nervous, but I thought, what the heck? I was gonna do it now, or I never will. The crowd parted, and I knew it was her. Only, she was holding someone else's hand. Oh, I should have known. Riley and Alvin were always together, and she laughed at everything he said, even when he was insulting me. Alvin looked like he wanted to beat me up, and the only reason he hadn't yet was because Riley was holding him back. I tried to speak, but I couldn't. Trace, I think I know why you invited me here. I'm sorry to say, but... No, please, hear me out! The fear of hearing the words I never wanted to hear finally made me speak. Please, Riley, let me just give you the reasons why. Why... I'm... Okay. Well... First of all, we've known each other since we were kids. Your family loves me. Your dad says I'm the son he never had. I may not be as tall, or I may not look like Alvin, but I love you. I love you, and that means I'll work twice as hard to make you happy. I could hear the cringe echo throughout the whole school grounds. Every single person who was watching probably felt sorry for me at that very moment. But not sorry enough to stop watching or waiting to see the train wreck that was about to follow. Riley took my hand and took the bouquet. She smiled at me for a second, and I felt hope. But then she shoved the flowers into Alvin's hand. Can you throw that thing away? Like, right now? Then she turned back to me. I wanted to meet you here to ask you nicely, but now you've really pissed me off, and you've humiliated me in front of all these people. Seriously? Do you have any idea how embarrassing it is to pretend to be your friend every day? Pretend? Shut your mouth! I'm not finished. I try to be nice. I smile even though you make me puke. And now, in front of the whole school, you embarrass me by confessing your gross feelings? I only made friends with you because my parents said it would be polite. Because they pitied you. We all pity you because you're poor. But that was a mistake, because now you always hang around me like some sort of leech. I can't seem to get rid of you. I even asked my friends to amp up the bullying so you'd finally take the hint. But wow, you're persistent. So now, you show up in that ugly suit from the 90s and you think I'd ever want to go out with you? You goody two-shoes nerd who can't even afford to get nice flowers? Please! My dad likes you? You must be delusional. He's always talking about how creepy you are. Sorry, not sorry. I don't date nerds like you. I only go for bad guys like Alvin. He knows what he wants and he gets it. Don't you ever come near me again, or I'll report you to the principal for harassment. I never spoke to Riley again. That evening, her dad came barreling through our door demanding to speak to my dad. We were having dinner. Riley's dad broke our table and shouted at my dad for a good 30 minutes. He told him that Riley was disgusted by me, and she was very offended. He called me a creep and told my dad that if I ever came near his daughter again, that he'd call the cops. I never wanted to cause my dad any trouble, but because of me, he lost Riley's dad as a client. But it was because of what Riley did that I turned my life around. I transferred schools. I worked hard. I worked out a lot. I eventually dropped out because a friend had suggested a lucrative business for me to get into. And with his help, I became a driver for a VIP. Let's just say the guy owns a lot of the businesses in town. How he got to that level, I never asked. But I learned a lot from him, because I showed him I was trustworthy. I was promoted to be his head of security, And before long, I was earning way more than I ever knew I could. I saved all my money, and when it was time to leave my employer, he introduced me to a lot of important people in my hometown. I became a loan shark when I went back home, and everyone wanted to borrow money from me thanks to the sinking economy, especially since none of the banks were giving out loans. By the end of the year, I had confiscated half of the businesses in town when they couldn't pay back my high interests. And that was how I built my empire. Guess I wasn't goody two-shoes anymore. It was around that time that Riley's dad approached one of my employees for a loan. He needed $50,000 to keep his business afloat. I immediately approved his loan. I gave him $100,000. My employee said he was over the moon. Little did he know, I gave him double what he wanted to make sure he could never afford the payments. Of course I took his business. I took his house, and I threw his family out into the streets. Riley begged me to let them stay. "Please, Trace, have mercy. We're friends, aren't we? I'll do anything you want. Why don't we go out to a restaurant? We'll talk about things, catch up." Long ago, she called me a creep, a nerd. Long ago, she wanted nothing to do with me. But now she was throwing herself at my feet. Now that I was rich and I ruled the whole city, everybody owed me money. Even the mayor. Riley was just another casualty of her father's greed. I laughed at her. "Friends? I'm sorry, Riley. I can't be your friend if you're only doing it out of pity. Nothing personal. Just business." I brought a demolition crew that day, just so Riley could watch me destroy her house. I smiled at her as she watched her childhood home go up in dust.